I think we're ready. Okay, good. We got a few more people that have joined us. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are. Thank you for coming to the June Nestle webinar. Thank you, Roz, for hosting it for us. It will be myself as well as my coworker, Tatiana Geraldo, presenting this morning. We're going to present on work we've been doing for a little over 2 years now on reaching Latino audiences here in the Pacific Northwest on different issues related to renewable energy and poplar trees. So the project that we work on is called Advanced Hardwood Biofuels Northwest. We go by the acronym of AHB, and I learned how to say this in Spanish. That's AHB is how you say it in Spanish. The project is to develop a sustainable industry based around poplar trees. And we look at all aspects of sustainability in terms of environmental, economic, and social sustainability. And the cool thing about being able to work on extension on this project is that you can dovetail off different aspects of the project and really expand into what you're doing. And so what we're going to talk to you about today is that there have been Latinos involved in this project in terms of planting and caring for the poplar trees, as you can see in the diagram there on the right side, but also in terms of current and future consumers of these renewable fuels and bio-based chemicals that could be made from poplar trees and other biomass some days. That would be Latino families, as well as other consumers. So I am collaborating today with my coworker, Tatiana Geraldo. You can see her in the far left of the screen with her long dark hair presenting to a group. And she's going to tell you briefly about the 3 different aspects of the project that we're going to talk about today. And then after she gives a brief introduction, she's going to tell you about the work we've done with the promotores. And then later on in the webinar, I'll talk about the work we've done with the farm workers. So I'm going to turn it over to Tatiana Geraldo now.
Good morning. As Patricia said, my name is Tatiana Geraldo. I am Latina, and I have an opportunity to share with you about Latino outreach focus in AHB. As you see in the presentation, we have 3 programs that we made 2 years ago. One is the energy ambassadors that we call promotores de energía in Spanish, and farmer workers and community. We work with the 3 different kinds of people as Latinos. And actually, I wanted to say, put this there, why we made this kind of program. And actually, if you see in the right side and the graphic, there are the top 10 states with the largest Hispanics population, and this is that we think that this is important to involve Latinos because more of the Latinos haven't represent and doesn't have informed about the environment issues. And if we can provide information, they can save money and save energy. And at the same time, they can reduce environment issues in their house and their families. And actually, also the farmer workers is more Latinos. And this is important because they working with the bioenergy crops. And this is that we work with the farmer workers. How we can work with the Latino community outreach? We create a WSU staff designed ambassador program that we call in Spanish Promotores de Energía. When I have the opportunity to do in my past and my curriculum that I have experience like promotoras, health promotoras. And this is that I think it's a good opportunity to enjoy with this program and the bioenergy with biofuels. And then how we made this possible. We made a class from energy literacy, and we say what is it, energy. We talking about the energy renewable, no renewable, alternatives for biomass, and actually we wanted to teach them how they can be promoters or ambassadors to share our communities outside. And we have 4 hours that we invite a general public, and after that the another 4 hours we just teach them how they can be promoters. And it was in June. In July we have another class that we invite them to see what is the plantations Poplar. We have a tour. And another is how they can speak on public, because it's hard when you go to talk with people, and we give tips how they can speak on public. And we reached, the first instance, we reached 33 people, and when we start the program, we say, okay, we can have 4 promoters, but we accept the goal because we get 10 promoters when they help us to give presentation. That you see it in the presentation, schools, they went to schools, community family center, church, houses, community events, when we have the opportunity to reach more than 350 people in 3 months. You can pass, yeah. How was this possible? Because the promotores, they went to the schools, they went to the church, they participate in 2 events, and they made 70 presentations during 3 months. And another is that they have the opportunity to go different places. They make a presentation in houses and parks. Everywhere that they find Latinos, they made presentations. We accept the goal because it was an amazing program, and the Latinos response, and they are very interesting to know about how they can improve their life and how they can save energy, how they can help to protect the environment. And actually the people, when we start with this program, the knowledge, it was very minimum knowledge. But when we finish, they got 23% increase in their knowledge from this kind of topic. And I wanted to read some message, or how I can say that, message that the people say about how they feel with this kind of program. And some people say it was interesting to learn how with little change we can save energy and money. By saving energy, we can have a better future. Everything was interesting and important. I will not share with the families and friends of the importance of taking care of the environment. This is for us, it was nice and important because we noticed that this program have positive ways, and we provide like materials, like we make ¿cómo se dice? How say? Sorry. Panfletos, ¿cómo se dice? I forgot to say.
Brochures?
Brochures, yes. Thank you. We made a brochure with a lot of information and some tips that the Latinos can do in their house. And actually we made an audit that they can follow the audits to do or fix something problems in their house by themselves and not too much cost to explain. And they are so happy because everything that we give to them, they improve the safe energy. When they make this kind of change, they notice that the bill is less than in the past. Okay, thank you so much. If you do have questions, please let me know when we finish the presentation.
So one thing that we learned from doing this program with the promotores is that the Latinos really wanted events that they could bring their kids to. They wanted events for families. And so last summer we did a field tour at one of our Poplar demonstration sites and invited the community to come with that. The whole event was done in Spanish, where we had different activities and games. You can see on the left side, we have balloons there, and you can tell there's some green and black balloons. So we did an activity showing them how the carbon cycle worked when you use fossil fuels versus how the carbon cycle worked when you used energy from biomass, such as poplar trees. And then this past fall, we had a bioenergy carnival where we had different tables and booths that people could come and they'd get a stamp at each booth for visiting it, for learning about that renewable energy activity. And then there was prizes for completing, going to each of the booths and learning about renewable energy. So that was a really fun thing we did last fall. So now I'm going to move on to talk a bit about the work we've done with the agriculture workers. We found out pretty early on in the project that agriculture workers were very involved in planting and maintaining these populations. And if you look on the left screen, you see over 100 people. And these at one point, this is another kind of poplar tree, hundreds of people, all of them Latino, had worked on planting and maintaining these poplar trees. So they are very vibrant in this industry. And so Tatiana and I started working with them, talking to them about what they were doing, what questions they had. We found out that workers here in the United States, most of them are born in Mexico, and most of them really are comfortable just in speaking in Spanish. And they are employed by contractors. This time of year, if you're starting to eat some of the wonderful fruit we have from the Northwest, cherries especially, those are probably picked by Latino workers here in Washington. So thinking about where your food and fiber comes from, mainly Latinos are working in that agricultural industry right now. So particularly if you like to eat organic foods, those even have higher labor amountages. We talked to some of the contractors that were working on, say, organic carrots, and they have to go in and do hand weeding of the field because you can't be using pesticides. So it's just a very labor intensive industry. And so Latinos are a very important part of that. So we did focus groups with Latino agriculture workers who had experience with poplar trees. We asked them what they knew about poplar, what challenges they had, what experiences, what they would like to know, and then how extension could possibly help them. So we did this by doing focus groups. We started doing focus groups in February 2017, and then these ran through March of 2018. We did 4 of these throughout the Pacific Northwest, and we did these in areas that were located near our demonstration sites where we knew that agriculture workers were helping with the poplar trees. These focus groups were done entirely in Spanish. We had the fortunate experience of having a statewide Latino outreach faculty. And so he was able to train Tatiana and myself in how to do these focus groups. And so he had done the first one. And then after that, the 3 remaining focus groups, Tatiana and I did. And we had 35 participants, and these focus groups were anywhere from, say, 90 minutes to 2 hours in total length. And so I would say the most important thing we learned in doing these focus groups was construyendo relaciones, so building relationships with the farm workers. I know initially when we started wanting to talk to the farm workers, Tatiana and I would go out and talk to them in the field. We had surveys that we asked them about. We wanted to build their trust, to understand that we were just trying to understand them and the work they were doing. We were very appreciative of the work that we were doing. And so on a cold, rainy day, we'd show up with, you know, coffee and cookies and things like that. And so some of the people, I would say it took almost a year in order to really build their trust and able to work with them. I know there was one particular person in California that Tatiana was calling them every few months on the phone. It was much harder doing this long distance, but once we built that relationship, I mean, it was just a phenomenal amount of assistance in helping us organize and do a focus group in California. So after we'd done all these focus groups, we had tons of data, and so we had to transcribe all of these focus groups into Spanish and then translate them into English. From there, one of my coworkers, Kat Gowan, she helped us code all of our data into categories. And some of the coding is why they were working for Poplar, what they thought of the advantages and disadvantages of working in the tree farms. They talked a lot about their families and their pride in work, that they liked to work outside, that they found it enjoyable to be in nature. We found out that, as we expected, that all of the workers were Latino. Most of them were from Mexico. There were some women involved in doing the work on the tree plantations, and we didn't necessarily expect that from the beginning. So it was interesting to talk to them about their experiences and how they worked with the men in the tree plantations. And then some of the workers were very, very young, you know, maybe in the late teens to early 20s, and then some of them were older. So there was definitely an age range in the workers. They have varying levels of knowledge of the trees. Some of them knew a lot about the trees, and they were definitely very much appreciated by the contractors and the customers. Most of them didn't know that much about what the purpose of the trees were. Some of them had heard a little bit about that the trees could possibly be used for biofuel, but they didn't know too much about them. But they did express that they were definitely very wanting to know more information. They also talked about how they like to work outside. We asked some questions about how their work interactions turned out. And they talked about the importance of being able to work well together and have a mentor on a crew. Some of them spoke about when they first started, how the work was hard and they weren't sure what it was to do. And so one of the things that we found out from doing this research was the importance of really having a strong crew leader that could help the crew work together very effectively. We also did some questions with the supervisors and the contractors themselves. And from some of the supervisors, we found out that really when the crews worked together well, they were able to be much more efficient in such a respect that they were able to save money, enabling the work to be done much better. How did that happen? Okay, skip ahead here. So all of them expressed that they wanted to learn more about the project they were working on, wanting to know more about poplar trees and renewable energy. And so we asked them how was the best way to reach them. And so looking at avenues that are particularly targeted towards Latinos. So looking at, you know, Spanish news and radio stations, Spanish TV stations, looking at social media that has more Latinos involved in that, churches, university, places where they feel safe and comfortable. They weren't so thrilled about getting information from the government, not surprisingly, or their neighbors. You know, they wanted someone that they felt they respected and trusted to be giving them reliable information. I would say one thing I learned in doing this and having Tatiana with me was extremely helpful because she's from Colombia. She's a native speaker. And just having her in the room just changed the whole vibe. If it would have just been me, even if my Spanish would have been perfect, it just would not have been the same. So I can just stress the importance of having people that are Latino involved in the work that you were doing. So we really need to be thinking about this in terms of going forward and how this industry is going to maintain itself. All of us like to eat, fresh produce, some of it organic. We like to drink wine and beer, and that industry is highly, highly dependent on a vibrant workforce. And right now, that's a Latino workforce. And so being able to support them, to help them to be able to do the work that they like. Some of them took a lot of pride in their work and wanting to see that there could be opportunities for their children to do this work in the future. And I know here in Washington, there are definitely problems with some of the tree fruit growers and not having people being able to harvest their fruit. And so that's a big problem for the farmer. So thinking about how we can support these people and maintain it. So what we're working on going forward, we have an academic publication that we're going to write starting this summer. We've done a little talking to community colleges to see what programs they have out there. And some of them are available to Spanish-speaking people that don't necessarily have to have a GED equivalent, that they can go in and have 2 teachers in the classroom, one of them to be a content-oriented teacher, and then the other one to really help them with their language skills if their language is not that strong. So that was an interesting find. We're working on info sheets from the research that we are going to prepare to give to the agriculture workers and then also the contractors themselves that hire their workers. And then we're thinking that there's other opportunities where we could collaborate with other industries that have a Latino workforce, namely forestry and tree fruit here in the Pacific Northwest.
Patricia, quick question. Those info sheets, will those be translated into Spanish, available both English and Spanish, and who will do that translation for you all?
Okay, so those will be, depending on who they're going to, some of them will be just in Spanish and some of them will be in both languages and some of them will be in English. Tatiana will be helping with the translation, and then we also have other people that we work with that can help with the translation. So depending on who they're going to will dictate what language they're going to be in. Sorry about that. So just kind of in conclusion here, some thoughts from a little over 2 years of reaching out to Latinos. I mean, this has been an extremely enjoyable project. I mean, I've learned a lot from it. It's really motivated me to pick up my Spanish speaking skills. Before this, I could speak fairly well. I could understand really well, but I couldn't really write that well. And so I've been working on that. Tatiana helps me a lot with that. I mean, they are just so eager to learn and so thankful and grateful that somebody is reaching out to them and providing resources in their native language. They really care about their families and their children, and it helps them think more about the environment. I mean, one of the things that we were able to do was bring in different researchers on our project that were Latino and have them talk about their work. And so seeing, just the diversity of Latinos and what they can do, I think was really inspiring. So I guess our kind of recommendations for extension, this is from the first field tour that we had, this picture here where we brought Latinos out in the field and had so much fun, is really go out there and engage them, create resources and events just for them that are all in Spanish. The Construyendo relaciones is so important. And once you kind of start that network, it can really grow. One thing off of this Promotores program that Tatiana developed, there's another Promotora program that's developed that's focused on waste and recycling. And so another program that's been very exciting to see started as well. And it's been so much fun. We couldn't have done this work without support from USDA NIFA. I mean, they funded the AHB project and they've been supportive of this work that we've been doing with the ag workers and the Latino audiences. Another Latina woman that helped us a lot was Jolimar Rivera Vasquez. She's from Puerto Rico. And then Jose Garcia Pabon. He is our statewide Latino outreach specialist. And then Kat Gowan helped a lot with the data analysis. So I think I have time for maybe a couple questions. And I left my email address there in case people have to run off and want to reach out to me directly at a point in the future. So thank you. Thank you, Roz, for having this opportunity.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
So I have a question. I understand I can't even begin to completely relate to the pressures that this community must be feeling right now, and was just impressed that you even were able to obtain information about whether they were legally documented or not. And I imagine that trust must have been particularly hard to build given the vulnerable situation these people are under. And what overall, could you just share your perception of how this has helped to empower these people, especially given our broader political context currently?
I mean, one thing we shied away, Roz, is from asking them about their immigration status. We didn't ask any questions in that regard. I mean, if they offered information, that was fine, but we stayed away from that. And I also know in terms of getting our IRB protocol for this, I mean, every other IRB application I've done went through smooth sailing, whereas this one was a little bit more difficult to do. And I think it's because it is a vulnerable population. We spoke with the contractors who hire the workers as well, and gathering from speaking with them that most of these were either residents or they were here on legal status. So I don't think we were actually speaking with people that were illegal immigrants that much, but it's such a concern.
Sorry, I must have misread that percentage early on. Sorry, I misunderstood that.
Yeah, I mean, it is such a vulnerable population, and they are so critical to the agriculture industry here in the United States that I think a lot of people just don't understand that, you know, that we need, you know, people here to do this work, and people that want to do this work, and being able to support them so that they have a good life for themselves and their children, and not being scared all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I will say I'm just so appreciative that you're providing publications in Spanish. One of our, I believe it is our most downloaded publication in Utah, is a Spanish fact, and about, I believe it's peach trees or something along those lines. And I just see such a demand for this type of information. Our university recently hired a Latino outreach specialist, and I'm extremely glad she's on board. She's a partner on a current grant that I submitted to USDA. I just, the more information and assistance that we can expand with an extension, I think the better. So I applaud your efforts on that.
Any other questions? Well, like I said before, there's my contact information, so feel free to reach out to me. If you have questions specifically for Tatiana, you can write to me and I can forward them to her as well. Mm-hmm. So we hope that we can do projects like this, working with other industries here in Washington, and hope this is inspirational for other people as well. So thank you.
I'm inspired. Thanks, Tatiana and Patricia. This is incredible. I appreciate the webinar.
Yeah, this is great. Thank you both.
Okay, so I think we'll see you all on the next Nestle call, which is in July, Roz. Did I announce the date? I know it's
July 19th. Yep.
July 19th at 10 o'clock Mountain Time. And then the webinar will be at 10:30 Mountain Time. I know it's my colleague, Bob Simmons from Washington State University, talking about his research that he's done in stormwater and water quality issues. And he's also worked some with us on poplar trees and water quality issues. So he has overlap with what we've talked about today.
Wonderful. And just a clarification, that's 10 and 10:30 Pacific Time, 11:30 Mountain Time.
Oh, okay, yeah. Thanks for that. All right.
Thanks all. Have a great day.
Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.